me just stand here. How's the sound? Okay. Yeah, cool.
Can you stand on that because of the recording?
Oh, it's good for everyone except for the people not here. So I was writing a talk for Agile Australia, and does anyone here practice test-driven development? 3 people in the room, 4, 5, 6 people in the room, right? So first step in test-driven development is fail the test, right? So I'm writing this talk for Agile Australia, and they had a deadline to hand in like PowerPoints and the talk outline and stuff about a week and a half ago, and so I didn't do it until today. And I, like, on the weekend, I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And so I, sticky noted up some ideas and typed it into PowerPoint and put pictures in there and all that sort of stuff. And that's what I've got here, right? And then the minute that I emailed it to them, I went, that's rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. And I had tonight as a marker to test myself on whether I actually had a coherent story. So you're going to tell me, right? The other thing is, before I start, I just wanted to tell you, on the 29th and 30th of June, we've got Last Conference. Last Conference is it's a festival of meetups from around Melbourne in the tech industry. We've got 140 individual presentations over 2 days, right? And what we do is we reach out to the people that do talks and stuff in the meetup network, and we get them to come together, and Swinburne Unit hosts it, and and it's cheap. It's $250 for 2 days, 120 or something for 1 day. So it's good value conference, and it's basically, and that pays for lunch, right? And morning tea and so on. It's basically a good fun conference. So now that I've used 10% of my allocated time, I'll tell you my story. But I'm going to have to rapidly click through this because I told you the slide deck's wrong. So I'm not going to do everything in it either. There's the founders of Aconex. On the left, that's Rob, he's the head of product, and on the right, that's Lee, he's the CEO. They started Aconex in 2000. And they did the usual, it's a tech startup, they got a bunch of money, they got some customers, they delivered, they got some global sales, the company grew. And then it was 2006, they hit that critical moment where they spent a year trying to ship product, and they spent all their time just fixing bugs and like generating more bugs and fixing bugs and generating more bugs. And then some people in the dev team just went, hey, there's this thing called Agile, and maybe we should try it because maybe it'll get us some product out the door. And so 6 weeks later, they shipped some product. And there was a funny little anecdote, like Rob, the guy on the left, he's like, why the hell didn't you tell me about this 7 years ago? We've been working together for years. What is wrong with you people? And that engendered this conversation now that goes on between the engineering team and Rob, the head of product and co-founder of the company, which is like, anytime you've got a good idea, walk up and tell me I'm doing it wrong, because I know most of the time I'm doing stupid things. And so that's actually a fundamental underpinning thing that matters, right? You've got someone in charge with organisational authority who can make proper decisions, who supports the team, right? And at the end of this, right, that's the thing that matters the most, right? You've got people doing work that are empowered to do work the way that they think it should be done, and that they're supported. Challenged as well, right? Because it's really funny, you work at Aconex and people in the product development team and tech leads will go up to him and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you reckon? And he'll go, yeah. And then he'll drill in on a particular thing and say, that looks stupid, why are you doing that? And then they'll go, oh, you're right? And then they'll walk away. So, it goes both ways. But you don't ever have to do what he says because he respects you as a professional. So I work in the management team, and I started as the engineering manager in Melbourne, but then I have drifted into this role of wandering around the company doing stuff. And I guess it's strategy and capability is the kind of stuff. But I've got to click through some slides to get... The way I got to Aconex, by the way I started working there, I started in 2013. So 5 years into 6 years in, and then it's been 4 years since. The way I started working there is I put out this tweet when I was finishing up a contract at Telstra. And then a mate of mine sent me a message and said, hey, I'm quitting my job, come and take it over. So that's funny. But surely, has anyone here gotten a job from a tweet before? Right? So 3 of us, right? Well done. So when I joined the company, there was 35 people in the product development community in Melbourne, and there was about 15 in Bangalore. I can't remember the exact numbers. We don't count very well. Now we've grown to more than 120 in Melbourne, more than 50 in Bangalore, and we've done all these acquisitions that have added people all over the place: Sydney, Nottingham, Paris, San Francisco, Munich. And so it's kind of, and we've also got, I forgot to put them on the slide deck, we've also got ops people in Denver, right? Shame on me. But because we used to have them in San Francisco, and we found out that, like, for half the price you can pay people in Denver and they don't quit after 6 months. So yeah. So anyway, that's the team today, and it's kind of complex and it's large and it's frustrating and it's hard work, right? And one of the amusing things is I've got a role that kind of spans across the whole organisation, so it means that I could be working. Sometimes I'm really angsty at work and I'm worried about stuff, and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's someone working that I can talk to, right? And that happens any time in the day. So this is the context of where we're at the moment. Then there's this data point of authority, like, do we know what we're talking about, or are we just, like, luckily in this space? And so I think this is a good one. This is from Glassdoor. It was taken a couple of months ago now. I think we've dropped 0.1%. But Aconex is sitting up there, and I went, this is from Glassdoor, and I went, well, this is weird, right? Let me just check. And so I looked at another bunch of, have I put anyone awkward or embarrassing up there? Is Zendesk up there? Yeah. Ha. Where is it? There. Well done, Zendesk, for being equally good as Aconex. And then I did another one looking at, like, some of the more prominent Melbourne companies like Seek and real estate and so on. I went, well, shit, we actually seem to be doing something right. So then anyway, here's the proposition, right? And I don't know if I'm going to answer all of these in the next 10, 15 minutes, but I just want to click through, right? Of course, it's important. One of the things is, I guess, in that, I'll just sit on that slide for a minute and I'll talk. 10 years ago, the Agile experience was like responding to a crisis of not being able to ship product. And so things like sprints and things like embedding QA people in the team and things like, in the early days, it's not test-driven development, it's like user stories and like flow and all that sort of stuff. And that was responding to the crisis of being unable to ship product and, the cross-functional team and all that. Then several years later, when I joined the company in 2013, there are very well-established engineering practices. And so it's funny for me these days, I think of what some people think of Agile software development practices as just established software engineering practices. And the things like, all the, version controlling and integration and test-driven development and, pair programming and all those things are just, there's a lot of companies now that do them just by default, and you don't kind of explicitly call them out as special things. They're just the way you do work, right? And when you think about them, what they are is they're all embedded quality practices that just bring up checking really close to doing the work, right? And so during that first 5 years, it went from months and months of development down to a month or 2 weeks of development, depending on what the team was, and focusing on the team dynamics of just pushing something out the door so that you could then say, that's done, let's move on to the next thing. And then the second tranche that came after that was bringing that feedback cycle down to hours or minutes within the team, right? So you're not necessarily pushing it out to customers any faster, but you are checking in the code, and you are checking with your peers, and you are checking with the stuff that you're integrating to in hours or minutes, right? And so that was the second tranche. So maybe there was a 2-3 year period, and then the second, from somewhere in the middle of that to the second half was really embedding those engineering practices. And then I joined in 2013, and I turned up and I saw what was a very mature, solid performing software engineering group. But then you take a step back and you look at the organisation, and it was okay, but it wasn't great. So we had further opportunities to make, right? And one of the opportunities was the cross-functional team, right? So anyone in the room a product manager? So we all know what I'm talking about, right? So product managers that think they know the answer to everything was the next problem to solve, right? And again, Rob's the head of product, and he actually came out of the construction industry as a worker in the industry, so he had this deep domain knowledge, right? But the other guys in the product management team were very much product professionals, and they would come in and think they knew best. And their dynamic and their interaction with the software engineering teams was like, I'll tell you what to do, I just need you to do it, right? And so then we launched a bunch of products that made no difference to the world, right? Weak take-up, poor user interaction design, and so on. And so, over the years, we've ramped up our UX team. It's quite solid and it's, very present. And, they're very good at getting out there and researching and understanding customer problems. And we've worked on improving the quality and the performance of our product management team as well. And very much it's about, I've got this idea, and I don't think it's unique to Aconex. Well, it's not at Aconex anymore so much, but it's like, there's a bunch of people in San Francisco that write blogs and tell the world and books and videos and stuff of like how to do product management, right? And there's two cases of people that do this, right? One is the consultant that's telling you a story so that you'll buy something from them. And they're typically writing a recover from crisis story, right? That company was doing it all wrong. They hired me, I turned up and I fixed it and everything's better. So when you're recovering from crisis, there's a particular bunch of techniques and methods you use that you don't use in your normal job because normally we're not in crisis. That's right. No? You're wearing a suit. Perhaps you are in crisis all the time. Just jokes. So there's a bunch of product managers around the world that follow this tribe of like, let's like fix everything. And what's the technique that you use when there's a crisis, right? If this building caught alight right now, we would see somebody don a red or a yellow hat and they would say, drop everything, follow me, go this way, no questions, no discussion, let's do it, right? There'd be a very authoritarian and strict discipline applied, and we would just do exactly what they said. There'd be no, let's negotiate, let's think about it, let's discuss the options. How should we aggress the building? Do you want to have a conversation about that? We wouldn't do that because we're not looking to learn, we're just looking to get out of the building, right? And I think that's one of the patterns. And the other pattern, which is, I think, is it 94, thereabouts % of startups, is failure, right? So, there's not a lot to learn from people that are writing and blogging about product management generally, right? There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of bad practices provided, right? And at the end of the day, product managers go talk to customers, go talk to markets, figure out some stuff and create a list. How hard's that? You're supposed to laugh at that point. The hard bit is getting people to get enthusiastic about the purpose, to understand why it matters to customers and to line up behind that purpose. Do you agree? Yeah, right. Let the record show that 4 or 5 people nodded. So what we did is we started focusing on that leadership aspect of the role, right? And telling people about why things, when I talked to product managers during that first 2 years at Aconex, it was very much, you got to keep saying why this is important. You got to explain. And also when we take it to market, you got to bring the data back that shows that people are using it and it cares and they care about it and that it's paying off and it's saving them time or money or doing whatever it is that it's supposed to do for them, right? And so again, it's kind of funny because you have to push shit uphill all the time. Like, people changing their behaviour, it's so hard. And I've got this attitude to work, which is don't ever tell anyone, you got to lead people, right? You got to encourage, you got to nurture, you got to grow people. You can't boss them around. And so I really made a distinct choice when I joined Aconex that that's the type of leader and manager that I wanted to be. Funnily enough, when I got there, like there was heaps of managers in the engineering team that were exactly like that, right? Nurturing, caring, supporting people that like do the same kind of approach to work. And so that worked pretty well. The engineering team are like that. And then we, over the first 2 years of my time at Aconex, we brought the product management team and the UX team are all kind of like that as well. So now we're a very coherent group across the organisation, globally too. We've done a lot of acquisitions, but one of the things we assess those teams on when we're bringing them on board is, how fit to our culture are they? Of course, the finance and the salespeople don't always listen, but you look around this room, you would find most people have this, even though you're in different companies, have a similar sort of values to work, right? Our industry has this set of principles and values that we share on the internet and on blogs and in social media and so on. And we come to meetups and we like learn from each other and we support each other. And so this industry is quite good at that sort of stuff. So it was actually very easy to connect with people, even though they spoke different languages to us. So that was the first couple of years. Then, over the last 2 years, we've really kind of focused on cohering that. And then, I'm just watching my clock. And then the point we're at now is this next stage. This next stage is we're looking into the future. What's the future going to hold for us? What do we need to do? And to do that, I've got to quickly click through a million slides and get to this. Here's 2 things. Why do people go Agile, right? So this is this list on the over here, right? This list of things people do, right? I just picked this up from a blog, but it's like, very common sense, and you look at it and you go, yeah, that makes sense. And then I went, well, how are we performing, right? And given that I was going to originally deliver this to Agile Australia, where you're going to have ANZ Bank and, Commonwealth Bank and people like that, it's basically trash talking them, going, gee, you know what? We're really, really frustrated with 4-week delivery. I can't tell you how annoying that is, that it takes us 4 weeks to ship code to customers, right? And so the motivations for us going Agile are all more or less the same, right? Like this notion of agility, this notion of fast responding to customers quickly, delivering value quickly so that you can learn and improve, right? They still stand. It's just the standards you hold yourself to change, yeah? So who here is like taking more than 4 weeks to ship code to customers? Who here is taking more than 4 weeks to get value from customers, right? It's, and when you work on enterprise software or products that have been around for 7, 8, 15 years, like it's hard work, right? Because you've got a whole bunch of complexity that you've got to deal with. And sometimes, especially when you're dealing with enterprise customers, the things they want, they're not little features. They're like an aggregation of experiences that take a bit of effort to get there. So the worst case is 6 to 9 months to some of our products to actually put it in a customer's hands so that we can start to gauge how happy they are with what we built. Right? We show them demos on the way. We do, sprint reviews, right? Where you actually, typically a bunch of developers will show a product guy or woman what you've done in the last 2 weeks, and then they go, hey, you're on track, or no, that's not exactly what, or hey, there's new opportunities that arrived, right? We do it with real customers as well. So if there's, we're an enterprise company, and so if we're delivering value, there are leaders in the market that everyone follows, and so we talk to those guys quite intimately, and we show them what we're building as we're building it. So we do sprint demos outside the organisation. And that's one set of data. And then there's this other thing that I think about, which is like the culture. This is a culture model. And it's like, where are our values, and how do we operate, and how do we behave with each other? And so there was that period where it was like respond to crisis. Then it was establish a cadence and an ability to deliver products. And then there was like ratchet up quality by focusing on engineering practices. And then now we're at this point where, we probably ship 3 or 4 production bugs to customers a year, right? Over 250 odd people in a product development community, about 28 teams, right? And so that's pretty good, right? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of little things that we ship into production that are, technically bugs, but no one notices, right? But 4 or 5 times a year, we put something into production, we notice it's a problem, and within somewhere between 2 days and 7 days, we fix it and it's out of the way, right? And that's what we call production bugs. With increasing the number of teams that we got, the risk of that going wrong is exponentially increasing. So we've got to attend to some things. We've got to change the way we operate. So we still got to attend to our technical practices, and we still got to do stuff there. But the real payoff for us, I think, is like, what kind of an organisation do we want to be? And so you get it, right? Like the first part of the Agile journey is a delivery cadence. The second part is technical practices. The third part is integrating the whole experience, product, user experience, engineering, so that you're leveling the playing field in terms of power dynamics and everyone's a partner rather than people telling other people how to do their job, right? And this new stage is like, how can we evolve into a new type of organisation with a different type of cultural kind of dynamic? And our engineering team, of course, because they led this Agile adoption thing, are the exemplars of where we want to go, and the rest of the organisation we want to take along. And at this point, just doing this talk, maybe start to think about what my job is and how I'm supposed to influence in the organisation. And I think this gives some signals to what I need to attend to, because one of the things is, well, you look at it, right? We've got engaged staff. If it's bold, we've got it. We've got profits. We're making good money. Every one of our teams is really rigorous on like, have we got clear goals? Right? Does it matter? We have this thing where there's cascading goals come out of the board through the organisation. And we do this thing where within a team, it'll be like 3 software developers and a tester and a product person will come along and say, hey, that PowerPoint deck you put up the other day saying what the company's mission is? I didn't see myself in it. Well, that's a problem. So we have to then rework everything and push it back up. It either matters or it doesn't, right? And if it matters, it's got to be included. And if it doesn't matter, we've got to stop doing it. So the company's very good at addressing that kind of stuff. Is it clear value for the customer? Is it a priority? Is it the right thing to do? And all that sort of stuff. So the goals stuff is good. We have a degree of innovation. I actually think innovation is in what we do. It's funny though, because it's not very emergent. It's very kind of, the product and UX guys get insights into how we can kind of disrupt and improve our customer market. And they do, and it makes a difference to them, and it saves them time, and it reduces risk and all that sort of stuff. And it's good for our customers. But we don't do much emergent, ground up innovation at the moment. And as a result, you see, even though our technical practices are very good, our infrastructure is starting to lag and starting to age. And you look at it, and we've got this, we're a bit brittle on that front. So we've got to reinvest more time into Slack and more time into space for the engineering team to, bring things back up to kind of modern standards, I guess. There's a strong sense of accountability. And the other one that's really good at the moment is the leadership team in the organisation, right from our two founders down to frontline team members. Very much are about manage the culture first, right? And what do we mean by culture? It's the way we interact with each other. It's the way we treat each other. It's the way we hold each other to account. It's the way we give feedback to each other and all that sort of stuff, right? So communicating and interacting with each other comes way before strategy and or process or any of that other sort of stuff. And it's funny because we hired a new CTO a couple of months ago, and he's a good guy, and I'm glad he's on the team. But he was really amused because he comes along and he's like, well, he's got a Scottish accent. He's usually... I can't do the Scottish accent, I won't try. But he's like, when I usually turn up to a place, I'm stripping away process for the first 6 months just so that people can focus on the job and get things done. But I don't see any process I can strip away here. What am I going to do? And then me, I'm the same, but I went, we're going to add some process. Just wait and see. But I'll give you an example of a process we're adding, right? So one of the things we think we can do better is nail the value proposition stronger, right? Have a better value. When we do new products in particular, so when we iterate on the old products, we're okay. But when we do new products, I think we miss the mark too frequently, right? And we ship something after, 6 or 9 months or whatever, and we go, well, we think it's going to be great. And then the customers get it and they're like, what? That ain't right. And so then we have to go back and iterate over it for another 3 or 6 months or something to finally get it right. So I think we can avoid that a bit. And one of the things we're introducing is a new process, but it's not like, the 7 steps to product delivery. It's when you launch a new project or a new product of substance, we're going to put you in a room. So you, the delivery team, the product manager, the engineering lead, and the UX, and the other people can be in the room if they want or not if they're too busy. But those 3 people. And then we're going to get some senior people in the organisation, the head of customer service, someone senior in sales, Rob, the head of product development, the CFO if he wants to. People like that, and they're going to come into the room, and I've designed this workshop, which is going to be, the people play out their plan. Very briefly, they play out their plan, and then they have to shut up for the next 45 minutes. And the other people in the room are only allowed to say critical things about the plan, right? So it's just attack the plan for 45 minutes and tell people that they've done it wrong. And so that's the kind of process that we're playing with, right? And it's kind of weird, and I think the UX guys get it because it's like nicked from a UX practice about like collecting feedback from customers. But that's the sort of stuff that we're playing with in terms of like implementing process, because by doing that, what we're doing is we're forcing divergent thinking into the planning process. So, you collective of people, at a certain point, you start to get groupthink and you all start to think the same, right? So we bring outside people that poke your plan and make you think more divergently. So that's the type of process that we're bringing in. And that's the type of things that I'm thinking about in terms of what's going to make us more agile. And it's very much about the power relationships and the way we interact with each other. There you go. And I thought I was going to do that. In 10 minutes. And these guys were like, don't go over time. So I'm done. Was that...